All right, good to be back. In fact, not only is it good to be back, but I have an important announcement and a challenge for you, but we will get to that in a second. I apologize for being absent for the past 2 or 3 weeks even, but man, what a past 2 or 3 weeks has it been. First of all, I've been in Italy with my girlfriend for our yearly vacation. Not much to tell you about that, except that the traffic and the driving culture there is absolutely insane, and that the food was surprisingly disappointing. But other than that, I have had the chance to go to Bulgaria and participate and even speak at a conference organized by the Aesthetic by Science crew, a truly awesome coaching group formed by a couple of really great guys. I had the pleasure of hanging out with them, as well as people like Mario Tomic, who has been one of my informal mentors for the past couple of years, and I've been following and respecting him so much for the past couple of years, as well as a couple of shockingly beastie members of the audience. And a couple of these guys have been following me on YouTube for a while, and man, the genetic pool in Bulgaria is just absolutely insane. I mean, look at this picture that I'm going to be putting up here. This guy could probably easily eat me for breakfast, or I don't know, he could blend me up for his post-workout shake and just chug me down. I don't know. But yeah, it's been an absolutely incredible experience. And to get to our topic today, one minor, but for me, very interesting moment of this trip has been when us, the guys speaking at the conference, went to the gym, and in the dressing room, we shot a couple of flexing selfies. And one of those has been with Mario Tomic. And look, Mario looks incredible in real life. I mean, he does so on photos as well. But if you saw the two of us in real life, probably 9 out of 10 people would say that he looks much better in real life. And they would be right as well. But I was very satisfied and sort of pleasantly surprised by how well I managed to hold my ground next to him on this photo. And look, looking lean and pretty jacked on a photo is really not that big of a deal. It's really not. I will be the first one to emphasize that. But it's been an interesting thing for me to look at this photo because it's a very symbolic moment in the context of my past 3 years of my fitness journey. And to illustrate why that is the case, I'll be telling you a brief story. You know, in late 2016, I really was not in a great place in terms of my fitness stuff. I was fatter than I wanted to be. I was chronically dieting and trying to commit to diets, which I then couldn't follow. I was binging every 1 or 2 weeks, even though I absolutely despised myself after that happened, but still it kept repeating itself. And in the midst of all of that, I was already having this YouTube channel. I was hosting my podcast already. And one time I had Mario on and we were talking. And I remember thinking while I was interviewing him that, man, here's this guy, this execution machine. He's disciplined, he's successful, he's in awesome shape, even though he's managing his business, he's traveling to different places all the time. All these things don't make staying in great shape easier, but he still manages to do that. And in the meanwhile, I am this guy who is just undisciplined, unable to execute. I am just a weak-willed wuss. And it was actually infuriating thinking this because at that time, fitness was literally consuming my life. I was living and dying by fitness. By the time I have read a good number of books, at least 5 of which have been written by top-notch evidence-based practitioners. I've listened to hundreds of podcasts by that time, and many of those were with guys like Eric Helms, Mike Israetel, Menno Henselmans. I mean, I've had them on my podcast myself, and for Christ's sakes, I've been certified as a personal trainer by Menno Henselmans himself, and probably I was in his top 3 most dedicated and geekiest students who was always there asking questions, eager to learn. And yet, by the turning of the year in 2017, I managed to get into the worst shape ever since I've been into the fitness game. Now, of course, this shape is not terrible by Jam Pop standards. I mean, if you look around on the street, it's not terrible by that standard. But for someone who was living and dying by fitness, it was unacceptable. And the worst thing about all of that was not the shape itself. I mean, really, if you're in that kind of a shape, it's only a matter of weeks until you can get yourself into a much better shape if you actually commit to a diet that makes sense and that works. But the worst thing about all of that was that I did not trust myself at that point. I felt like the power to make a change and to move the needle in the direction I wanted to was not in my hands anymore. And why would it be if you think about it? I mean, I had all the information, I had all the theory, I was educated, and I just wasn't able to execute. And that made me just incredibly powerless. And all in all, I was really not in a good spot. And I don't think back to those with fond memories. Of course, now I'm glad that I have that memory in my mind because I can use that as a motivating force to never allow myself to get back to that spot. But still, it was a really shitty time of my life. Now, what got me out of that place, because I did get out of that place, was 2 things. Number one, just acknowledging the fact that something needs to change. And by change, I don't mean eating less calories, because that's a given, but that what I'm doing currently is not working. And even though I have the theoretical knowledge of what should work, it doesn't mean that it is actually working for me at the time. And it doesn't mean that I have the ability right now to execute on the game plan that should work. And that brings us to the other component, and that is that I had to acknowledge and accept that at least in this particular time period of my life, I am not able to crack this on my own. And at that point, I decided that I'm going to seek mentorship and guidance from people who knew more than I did, or even if they didn't necessarily know more, they had a different perspective and a more objective view on what I should be doing. And that started my relationship, for example, with Börge Fagerli. I started working with him, and we've worked together for a number of months. And by relying on his wisdom, his experience, picking his brain, learning from the things he has seen as a coach and as a practitioner himself, over time, I managed to get myself from that shitty spot that I was in. And over time, as I gradually improved, my mind and my body was in a better place, I felt like I can now take this on my own and I can proceed and create my own game plan. And that's exactly what happened. And over time, not only was I able to take my own coaching in my hands, if you will, but I've been able to create my own game plan and my own rules that I came up with myself and were not even necessarily talked about out there that much. But that's not even the point. The point is that this was a process, a gradual process with incremental results. And for the first 40% or so of this journey, I couldn't do this on my own, and I did seek mentorship. And that brings me to the announcement that I want to make in this video, is that I want to help you with exactly that initial stage of your transformation. And within that, I want to help you specifically with that really tough first step, which often can be so challenging and just daunting to make. You know, when you've been wallowing in a state of mind and bodily shape that is just not up to the standard that you set for yourself, often it can be just so hard to make that critical first step, that first 20% or so of your transformational journey. That is exactly what I want to help you with. And I want to give you a nice kickstart, a nice kick in the butt, basically, that will put you back on that right path and that will give the power back into your hands. So what we're talking about is an 8-week-long transformation challenge. And at the end of that, you will be able to make visibly striking, obvious results and a transformation to your physique. The challenge will be hosted and guided by me, and you will be accompanied by other people that are going through the same transformation as yourself. And by the end of it, you will be kicking ass, not only in terms of the physical transformation, which should be significant, but hopefully you will have a different outlook and a different mindset on all of this. And you will be able to say that now you're a different person with a different approach to your fitness journey going forward. So you will be kicking ass by the end of it, and there is no other option. Now, of course, depending on your starting point, you should be expecting different results. So if you're currently kind of chubby, then by the end of this challenge, you will no longer be chubby, which I know is not as exciting as saying that you will be shredded. But getting to good before you're getting to great is an unavoidable and critical step of any transformation. And if you're already like athletic, normal looking, then you will be lean or very lean by the end of the challenge. Now, why is it 8 weeks and why not just 4? It is simply because of the reason that I know, and this is certainly true for myself, it is certainly true for most people that I know, after 4 weeks of fat loss, you are often not actually looking that much better because you're losing a lot of substrates from your body, not just fat. Your muscles lose glycogen, you're losing body water, so your muscles often look a bit deflated and you just look flat, kind of flabby. That is not a very discouraging time. After 6 to 8 weeks, now we're talking business. Now there is actually visually striking positive change in your appearance. So I really like the time frame of 8 weeks as a minimum, and that is non-negotiable. Now, in case you're wondering, the challenge and joining the challenge is not going to be for free. By now, I know it all too well what happens when I offer people free coaching or free challenges or even a free consultation call. Absolutely jack shit. Most of the time, people don't even show up, let alone executing on the plan. So unfortunately, us people are kind of retarded in that way. We value what we pay for. So you will be given the guidance, you will be given the instructions. It is not going to be a free tool. You will be motivated and fired up to get into it. You will execute, you will be successful by the end, and there is no other way. So if you're up for this challenge, if you feel like it is time to finally make a change, and if you're willing to work for that change, then click the link in the description below. You can read everything there is to know about this challenge. The challenge will open up in a week. Then it's going to be open for a couple of days only after that. Then it's going to close. It's going to run for 8 weeks. And after that, you're going to be successful with it. I promise you. And then we can go from there. So that is the announcement that I had to make in this video. I apologize once again for disappearing for a couple of weeks, but now we are going to be back on our regular schedule and good content is coming in the coming weeks. And regardless of that, subscribe to this channel to be up to date on everything that's coming up. Like the video if you did like it, and otherwise, see you next time. Have a great weekend.